Well, some fresh and not terribly good news on the COVID-19 front, according to the Ontario Hospital Association. Based on information from the science advisory tables, we are now officially in a third wave of COVID. They are releasing the data that show that we have seen this increase. And of course, one of the causes of concern, certainly in certain regions, has been the uptick in those fast moving variants. What all this has meant, even as we begin to get vaccines rolled out, is a sort of a patchwork response. Some regions still in very strong lockdown, other parts of the country moving back towards tentative reopening. Some reopened only to take a step back. In the middle of all of that, of course, are hundreds of thousands of small businesses trying to sort out how they can go about their business and what business will look like. Heather Reisman is with us now, the chair and CEO of Indigo. And Heather, thank you so much for being with us. And I did just want to start with how it's been for you. I mean, we've talked, we know it's been very difficult, and that there was a real sense of kind of injustice in the last lockdown about which retailers could open and which couldn't. Are you now open? Do you feel as though you're in a place where you can open for business at least up to a certain capacity?
So when we talked about how it feels, I mean, it's how it feels for all of the people who work in all of these companies of all sizes, right? They could be smaller ones, medium, larger ones, what it feels like and what it has felt like. And it is, as you might expect, very challenging. So at the moment, we are, again, open in almost every region in the country with legitimately strict occupancy requirements. And we'll just have to see. It's a challenge, right? It's a day-to-day challenge. And it's tough. There's been this sense that some have paid a bigger price than others, and we had talked previously about almost a compensation for those that had to close, for the greater good, for the health and safety. That decision was made. What kind of feedback, if anything, have you had from government on that point? Is there a receptivity to the idea that some groups and sectors were unfairly hurt here? So far not. And I think the point you're making is from the moment of COVID, all of the businesses that are customer facing were cleaved in half. They were separated. There were the essentials and the non-essentials, which of course makes sense from a medical point of view. But for all of us who are part of the non-essential, and Amanda, we're talking about easily 3 million jobs here. 3 million jobs in total. For all of us who are labeled non-essential, other than unemployment insurance for those who keep getting put off employment, on employment, off employment, and some funds to sustain those you employ up to a certain level, there has been very little. And what to me has been the biggest disappointment with government is that the program that exists to support all of us considered non-essential was a program designed at the first lockdown. It was designed when the first lockdown happened, when we anticipated this would be maybe a 3 or 4 month effort, and that when the new program, when the new opening came, well, since then, we were locked down all through the holiday quarter. We remained locked down in the new year, and we don't know what's going to happen. And the government has not come up with anything other than what they came up with at the beginning. So that does feel disappointing, I must say. That does feel disappointing to the thousands of businesses who are non-essential.
I wish we were having this conversation, Heather, at the end of it, that we were coming out the other side and kind of looking back and taking stock. Unfortunately, as I said, coming in, we now have health officials in Ontario saying we are officially in a third wave. We may well see, I don't even like to say these words out loud because I so hope it's not true, but we may well see new lockdowns, new restrictions imposed more broadly. Will your business be able to stand that? I mean, I hate to put it that way, Heather, but can you take any more?
You have to say there's two parts to it, Amanda. So there's the financial part, and then there's the mental stress on people. And you never want to say you can't sustain it. That's just not in the DNA of people running businesses or people in businesses. But one, I think there has to be a much more meaningful response from government. It just hasn't been meaningful. no matter what they say. It has not been meaningful. And doesn't matter whether you're an independent restaurant or you're a business the size of Indigo, the stress, we have now been closed almost 6 months. And when you realize that it's not just that we were closed, it's that the funds generated during that period are meant to allow us to invest for the future. And that doesn't even address the emotional, mental demand on people. It's unbelievable. Do you realize for our frontline workers, they're open, they're closed, they're open, they might be closed. The number of issues are huge. And the point I would make on behalf of all of us who are in non-essential is the amount of support we have received is just so darn little. So we say we understand to do the right things for health, but you can't ask us to be the ones absorbing the biggest brunt of this and then be as limited in your support as you have been. And they have been. I'm sorry to say they have been.
Do you see that changing? I mean, what do you hope for? What needs to happen?
Well, I would like the federal government to realize that they need to do something big to support all of the businesses, small businesses, medium, large. Look at the recovery package that's just gone into the U.S. Look what they've done for individuals and then business by business. We are way behind in terms of what we have determined to do. And, I fear it's not like you're going to see everything go bad in the next 2 months. It's that this huge demand is going to have repercussions months and years into the future. And we need government to think about the future, not whether we can open tomorrow.
And I do know, like many businesses, you did pivot. You did everything you could to respond to this pandemic. Your e-commerce sales did grow. Just give me a sense of what the strength of that business, what you're able to do there, and what that means for you as you look ahead.
So I can say this on behalf of myself, but on behalf of everybody in the retail business. We all saw huge growth in e-com. But understand that it was not that retail stayed a certain size and then e-com grew. So what that means is you have all the cost of your retail business. Now your e-com grows, and that comes with a lot of cost. You've got to operate the warehouses. You've got to pay for delivery. You've got to address all of the implications of the service that is required for people. So all you've done is you've kept your business and not even your full business, and you've added massive costs. To that, we all added big cost in our retail systems in order to address the safety measures, and yet we were still closed down. So basically what happened to all of us considered non-essential is we had massive cost increases and very little help. And I just want to say, Amanda, that while we were labeled non-essential, we all feel we're not non-essential. We're not non-essential for the jobs we create, for the households we support, and for the communities that we are part of. We are part of the communities. I've had endless people say to me, Indigo's my happy place. I miss being able to go to my local Indigo or chapters. It is my happy place. So, and I know I'm just one company. What about the restaurants, the gyms, the movie theaters, and the many retail businesses? So I feel this message has to get out. We are not essential. We are essential to the fabric of this country.